Hello everybody, uxwbill here with you once again. No, the window on the silver Buick is not broken. It just had a window mechanism malfunction, and so the window is actually stuck down at the moment and can't be brought up. But that's not what I'm making a video about. Some of you are probably wondering why I haven't made any particularly interesting video for my 600th video milestone, which actually kind of snuck up on me. That's part of the reason why there's nothing particularly fancy for video 600. But there are a couple other reasons as well. I've been very, very busy with my job. The situation with my employer recently underwent a major change, and while I am still employed, there is an awful lot to be taken care of right now, and so it has definitely put a damper on my video making activities, much less my fancy video making activities. Second thing that's been occupying a lot of my time, yes, that sign is still very much on the car, the big blue land whale. The funny thing is, I used to call those restyled Dodge trucks with the massive grill a land whale because they look like a big whale just cruising down the road with its mouth open to like strain things for food through its baleen or whatever they call that. I think that's the right term for that. Anyway, in addition to just random maintenance on this car, which is what I'm getting ready to go and do, had a little breakdown. Nothing too serious, nothing very serious at all, but it, come on. It certainly could have been, and I learned something interesting recently. This car has had its locks rekeyed. The ignition, the two front doors, the tailgate, they've all been rekeyed because I actually had a key cut from the VIN, and the only places that it works are the locks that weren't rekeyed. The hidden storage cubby back here, they did get the seat compartment lock rekeyed, and the glove box, of course. As you can see, I've got the dashboard out of the car right now, not completely, but the trim is gone at least, and it looked quite a bit different without the trim in place. At first I had a radio problem, but fellow YouTuber Moldy Mac really helped me out until I can get the stock radio fixed. And yes, I said get the stock radio fixed because I want to keep this car fully original. Second problem I had was with the climate controls. I found that when I bought this car, the climate controls were, shall we say, fidgety. But things got more interesting than that when I went inside to discover why they were not completely functional. You see, the cruise control on this car did not work reliably either after I brought it home, and it turned out that was simple dirty contacts. So I thought the same thing would be wrong with the thermostat and the climate controls. Actually, they're more climate controls than they are a thermostat because this car doesn't actually have an electronic automatic thermostat. It just has simple manual climate controls. Well, as I used them, they started to work better and better, but the one position that never functioned at all on this car was the defroster position. So I pulled the controls out thinking, oh, you know, I'll just shoot some deoxit in there, it'll all be fine. Well, I pulled the controls out, all was not fine. I discovered that the switch that turns the fan on, that energizes the fan speed switch, which is hooked up over there, I'll explain that in just a moment, was actually a burned, twisted, charred lump of plastic. I'm surprised that it worked in any of the positions, and I'm even more surprised that I either didn't blow a fuse. Well, I'm glad that I didn't have a car fire, because that would have really upset me. Anyway, what I've got going on here, this is the connector that plugs in to the air position controller, which also serves to turn the fan on. And as you can see, not only did the switch itself get hot, but this connector did as well. This thing is basically ruined. I don't think there's a way in the world this thing could be saved. Well, I drove the car in a downpour the other day to take the recycling over to the other town where we take our recycling when the bins all fill up. And it was raining and very humid at the time, so this car promptly fogged up inside, and that led to the other problem. With no climate controls, I had no way to turn on the defroster or the air conditioner, so I was wiping my windshield with a hastily discovered piece of paper towel, and that just wasn't a very tenable situation. So I'm getting ready to meet up with the Keykeeper, And there's the fallout rain from Hurricane Isaac, which is slowly degrading as of the time this video is made. And we're supposed to get dumped on with rain here in Illinois starting a little later this evening. And I don't want to take that chance. You see, I'm going to be driving the better part of 50, 60 miles all told, and if the rain comes up and I have occasion to use the defroster on this car, I'm really going to have a problem. So that's the purpose of those green wires all the way up front there. I've got the climate control hot wired based on the pinout that is in the car's service manual. And in fact, I have all of the dash trim here in the back. Now the fan switch is there. I actually liberated it from the climate controls because without that fan switch in place, you can't actually get the fan to run since that breaks the circuit. Now while I've got the fan control in place, you might have noticed that I had it turned all the way up to the high position. And there is a method behind my madness here. There's a lot of current going through this connector on the first 3 fan speeds. You see, the fan motor is in series with a bunch of resistors. And in the lower fan speed, different resistances are switched in. And so you end up sending the same amount of current across all this wiring. It's just a matter of how much you're wasting as heat and how much you're sending on to the fan motor. Fortunately, when you put the fan in its highest speed, the greatest of that load is relieved from all this wiring back here because the high fan speed actually turns on a relay that connects the fan directly to a fusible line followed by wire coming off of the battery. So the load is relieved from here. Now the second wire shunt that's in here, the wire jumper, this first one that goes between the 2 brown wires forces the fan on, enables power to the fan circuit. This other one turns the air conditioner on. However, there's still the small matter of having the vacuum actuators and vacuum guide valve from the climate control assembly unplugged. I've got these sealed off, and fortunately for me, on a typical General Motors car such as this one, the climate control system fails safe in the absence of vacuum pressure and goes to direct the air such that it comes out of both the floor outlet and the defroster outlet up in the top of the dash. So as long as I've got a working fan and the air conditioning compressor is running, everything will be fine. So not only is the blower fan now forced on, as you may be able to hear from the wind noise in the Handycam's microphone, the air conditioning system is also fully functional, and I have not bypassed any of the pressure sensing switches, so all of those things will continue to function as normal, and we'll cycle the compressor as necessary to maintain appropriate pressures in the system. So that's an explanation of some of the things I've been facing, both personally and professionally. Now I think I'd better get on the road because the Keykeeper said that he wanted me there, the earlier the better, and here I am sitting around wasting time with the video camera. So next stop, the Keykeeper. Okay, just a couple points of clarification, some things that I forgot to mention in the course of making this video. And rather than reshoot those scenes, since as mentioned, I'm on kind of a time crunch to get to see the Keykeeper, thought I'd just address those things now. First of all, I did get the cruise control working properly. It's actually on now. You can replace that control stalk. It costs either $200 from General Motors or about $40 at your friendly AutoZone. A can of Deoxit is much less expensive than that. Go away, Toyota. And just so happened to fix the problem perfectly because this is a pretty low current device that just sends an enable signal to the cruise control. The climate control situation is not such a happy one. Would you look at that? It must have a stuck accelerator. The climate control is not such a happy situation because the little switch is actually replaceable, but good luck actually finding one. The only auto parts dealer I saw that happened to have one was Rock Auto. When I tried to buy it, they removed it from my cart saying that it was a no longer stocked part. It then disappeared from their catalog and reappeared a day later. I didn't find it anywhere else. So after thoroughly striking out in efforts to find that particular switch assembly and replace it, I realized that I'm kind of a dum-dum. You would think for a guy that does the kind of business that I do on eBay, buying random crap that I don't need, that I would have looked there first. I did look there. I found two people selling the part. One person selling a new old stock genuine Delco accessory replacement part. I found another person selling an aftermarket replacement, and I decided, what the heck, I'm going to buy them both. Just hedge my bets in case this happens again with this car in the future, because if they're hard enough to find now, who knows what's going to happen down the road. It's probably not going to get any easier to find some of those parts, even though according to the information I found, that particular switch was used from sometime in 1983 all the way up to 1993, so you'd think they would be a little easier to find than that, but I guess not. My luck had not turned for the good yet. Although I'm getting the new old stock part from a seller in Canada, the seller in the United States who had the aftermarket part contacted me last night and said they had to cancel my order because they didn't have any. What fun. Better hustle. Keykeeper is not going to be happy with me. And for those wondering why A, the service engine soon light is taped over, and B, turned on, it's taped over because when you're driving at night and the light diffuser colored lens is not in place, that thing is brighter than the sun itself. It is on because this car has an exhaust leak that is making the engine computer very unhappy. As you remember, the muffler is rusted out on the top side. I have a muffler in the back of the car, but we haven't gotten around to installing it just yet. Well, I'm definitely driving into the rain now, everybody. And it's not too much further up here, and that Olds Custom Cruiser was parked outside. Be interesting to see if it's still sitting there. No, it does not appear to be. Well, I really hope the old car found a good home. Yes, folks, we're doing it again. Getting the old wagon high. Don't those new rotors look so nice and clean? They'll rust in no time, though. Give them a good washing down in this parts bath. And there, for anybody wondering what one looks like, is an ABS sensor wheel. Here are the old brake shoes. Now these might be hot, so...
They are hot. I wouldn't handle it too much.
Yeah, they're toasty roasty, alright. Looks like they still had a fair amount of meat on them.
Yeah, we don't want that to happen. That's going to go back up there.
We've got the caliper stashed up there, up top. We'll try to shed a little light on the situation. Here he is removing the cotter key from the nut there.
Trade secret.
And what is that?
It's my magnet's not strong enough to do what I want it to do.
That sounds technical. So you're going to fish that thing out. Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay. And there's a bearing in there.
That's hot tamale, hot tamale.
No parking, kids. He's serious. Might get towed.
I don't like that too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Is this not a classy vehicle?
Greg, who works over here, took a horn, wired it into said vehicle's blower motor.
So the moment he turned the blower on, he got royally horned, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, there is like not any possible better color for one of these, I think. I love this orange color. If they'd have offered my S10 in that kind of burnt or rust orange color, I would have gotten it in that color, but they didn't, so. Getting back over here to the Keykeeper, we're looking at a freshly removed rotor and the rest of the front wheel assembly. Yeah, we have assorted dust caps and covers here, and then we have
be able to reuse these dust seal.
the actual working bearings, and they are cooking, I don't mind telling you. Of course, when you consider the speed at which they were turning going down the highway not more than probably 15 minutes ago, it's a wonder they're not hotter, really. Okay, so what are you doing now?
What I've done now is I've cleaned the roller bearings. These are tapered roller bearings.
Yes.
And I've cleaned all the old grease off of them. And now I'm inspecting them for any unusual wear, bluing by excessive heat buildup, or any roughness. And from what I can tell, these bearings look okay. The only thing that concerns me is that's either built up grease right in there, the black stuff,
Yeah.
or it's old seal.
Okay, what we've got here is a bearing that has been cleaned of all grease, and then the Keykeeper has one that has not yet been cleaned right here, and you can see there is quite a bit of difference in the condition of that bearing relative to the clean one. The clean one's also a good deal cooler. Now here the Keykeeper is cleaning the spindle upon which the bearings and the wheel and the rotor and all that assorted stuff ride. That little thing is under a lot of pressure. It has a pretty important mission in life.
Since this is a machined surface, I'm looking for any gouges or anything, and I really don't feel any that are too concerning to me. There's a bit of a drop off here, but I think that's normal. Where the bearings ride, it's smooth. I'm more concerned about where the bearings ride. So now I'm going to wipe off all the old grease, then I'm going to get ready to install the cleaned wheel bearings in the new rotor,
Yes, sir.
the dust seal, and then I'm going to put this wheel all back together and do the same exact procedure on the opposite wheel. Okay, see this guy? He's officially been packed. And how you do that is take this device. This is a wheel bearing packer. This stuff is wheel bearing grease. Okay? Put the bearing in, tape it side down, plunger, slides over the shaft, then just push till you start to see new grease come out from the other side of the bearing. Now that the bearing's been officially packed, we put it in the new rotor. These rotors are nice because they come with racers already.
Okay.
And then it's time for the dust seal. Now you can obviously see on the dust seal what side's been outside because it's rusty and what side's been inside because it's clean metal. Those of you that don't know, you want the cup side of the seal going into the rotor. And then you just take a hammer to seat it.
Where's my
I'm
hammer?
gonna use my snap-on brass-faced hammer to do this. And when you hear that noise, you know the seal's fully seated.
Okay.
Now, it's time to pack the little bearing and then put this rotor on the car.
Alright, so once again, you stick it in the bearing packer.
Tape it side, goes in first. Take the plunger, squeeze on a level surface.
Is your other hand a level surface?
Of course.
Some people have fallen arches, the Keykeeper has fallen hands. Yep, there's little worms of grease sticking out in between those bearing surfaces.
Bring me the bearing packer.
Okay.
Okay, never mind.
Top piece.
Never mind. I don't need it.
Oh, okay.
Because I want to lightly grease this shaft so everything gets installed easily. Now, since this is done and out of the way, we're going to set this back down and take my die grinder and clean those bosses off really quick. You hang out with me, use big boy tools.
Now, it would seem I discovered an important object that the Keykeeper keeps in his toolbox that's necessary on all car services. A little interlude with Ask Dr. Science here. A moment ago, you saw that toothed wheel on the rotor, right? Well, this is how anti-lock brakes work on a car, at least the front anti-lock brakes. The rears are a different story entirely. What you've got here is the little sensor, and the ABS computer watches that sensor, watches that wheel turning, and if it detects that you've got the brakes on and one of the wheels is slowing down dramatically faster than the other, it realizes, according to its programming, that that wheel is the one that's about to lock up. And so the computer starts modulating the brake on that wheel much faster than a human driver could. And as you can see, this thing almost tried to lay down and die. Now that's not without controversy. Some people much prefer driving in a vehicle without ABS, but for the average motorist, it is a tremendous benefit. And that is basically how the computer knows when to start applying the brakes to one or more wheels on the car that it feels are close to lock up.
Okay, see that washer?
Yes.
It's keyed. Now, it doesn't matter which way it goes on, but the slot has to go in the key. Now I know I got some contaminants on the brake rotor itself, but that's not that big of a deal. I can always clean that up.
And here's the nut that retains it all, and that nut is followed up by the retaining clip. Then we'll put the cotter key, retaining clip, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then we'll put the new brake shoes in the caliper and put the caliper back on the rotor. Don't those look just so nice and shiny relative to everything else under there?
A large quantity of rubber gloves is never safe for a job like this. I've gone through 2 pairs already. It's nice to have fresh gloves. Okay, now we have everything put back together. We take the castellated nut and we crank it down till it just starts to get snug. Do not over tighten these bearings, that's how they fail. Now, I'm going to snug it down, take it back out to seat the bearing. I'm going to do that a couple times, and I'm going to back the castellated nut off till I find a hole. Then I'm going to reinsert the cotter key and bend it out. Now, some of you may say, Keykeeper, why are you reusing a cotter key? I'll tell you why. It's the same reason we reused the dust seal, because this is a fly-by-night kind of operation here. I didn't really plan out everything I would need. Plus, I've only got an hour to do this till closing time.
Just a moment ago, the Keykeeper and I worked together to depress the piston inside the caliper. And now we're working on setting the shoes in the caliper, getting ready to return it to its native home, living on the edge of the rotor. An interesting story about what we're doing here. Many years ago, when I had the Plymouth Reliant, well, not that many years ago, but not long after I took it home, which is getting to be longer ago every day, I took it out for a test drive on the highway, and much to my dismay, I discovered that my driver's side brake, I think it was getting stuck on. The caliper was not able to fully release, and as you can see, the Keykeeper has coated the major working surfaces of the caliper with never seized compound, which is a darn good idea. We ended up taking the caliper off the Reliant, and we found the problem immediately. The friend of mine that owned it drove it up and down a yellow dirt country road, and there was all kinds of yellow road dirt stuck up inside the caliper on the slide mechanism, which prevented it from working. Those of you who were alive in the 90s and old enough to remember these will probably no doubt remember what these things were once a part of. Used to be these horns that you could buy that were supposed to make an irritating ultrasonic noise to ward off deer. Well, this car's got a set of them, or at least it had a set of them, but they're all busticated, and so they don't have that cool retro feel anymore. So I went over here and got some stuff to remove the old adhesive with, and we're going to see how well that actually happens to come off of there. I was kind of worried about removing these because I was afraid they might take the paint on the bumper right with them. A little bit of that adhesive's coming off, but not very much. Let's go over here and try this other one and see what it's doing. Yeah, I think they both need another dose and a little more time. Alright, definitely made some headway on that. Just about all that nasty adhesive is gone, and it doesn't seem to have hurt the paint on the bumper. Most of these deer horn things usually met their end in a car wash where the pressure of the water wand simply blew them right off their bases, and I would imagine that's what happened to these. I can remember my parents buying multiple sets of these for all their cars, and I have no idea if they actually did any good, of course. But I can remember one box of some silver ones where most of them were black, and these things were square instead of rounded or bullet-shaped, and on the box it actually claimed that they were car wash resistant. Don't remember what vehicle those were on, but I do remember that they were surprisingly car wash resistant. Now the Keykeeper's wrapping things up over here. He's got the new pads in place on the rotor, and he's just looking to secure the caliper to the rest of the assembly. Now we've moved on to the other side here, but since it's pretty much the same, just on the different side of the car, and we're running kind of short on time before we have to actually be out of here, I'm not going to get too much video of this one. So thank you for watching, and by all means feel free to leave a comment if you have one.
Hold it in the center. Just like that. That's how you get things done like a boss.
There it is. Everything's all done now. The Keykeeper and I just have to go and get ourselves some dinner, and we're going to do that. So what did we end up doing to change from our tank into a Cadillac? Well, I'll tell you right now, the brakes on this car are a good deal more responsive and better applying than they were previously.